before we begin, I got a few different questions for you. So, first off, how long have you been playing Overwatch for?
Uh, Maybe like 2 months now in total. Maybe a little longer.
Okay, so pretty recent. And then let's say like the past 2 weeks or so. How often have you been playing the game?
Not as often as usual. I think this last week I played more than I did, but the week before that I barely played at all.
Okay. And then how? And then so that I have a frame of reference like for what more and less means. How like this week that you did play a little bit more than usual. How often were you playing?
Maybe like 2 or 3 hours a day.
Okay, sounds good. And then let's see, what was your in-game name here? Seymour Butts. Ha ha ha. Where is? All right, here you are, number 12. And then final question for you before we start is: do you have any questions for me?
No. I'm up for all the advice, man.
All right, sounds good. So then, yeah, I'll just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about, and then that is about it. One thing I would say is just make sure walking out on time with our team looks as though we were like slightly late, and then that sometimes can just cause a problem if we're not there with the fight to, like initially. But it's very minor issue here.
Yeah.
All right. So far, we'll point on things as I see them here, and then we'll go more in depth and whatnot as things get bigger or they repeat themselves. So here, just to start off, very tiny, minor thing, but it also can add up to a very big thing if it continues on. Is we do what you call overhealing here. So that means that here we, Reinhardt and Monkey are full HP, and we're gonna see them continue to be full HP for a large portion of this. Yeah, we just keep on pumping healing into them, and we go heal, 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 and then that really ultimately is just a waste of time and resources anytime you do that on a support. So we could alternatively be using that time to actually heal somebody that needs healing. We could be reloading, we could be shooting, we could be looking to use our abilities, or just being aware of our surroundings. So there's a ton of things that we could be doing with this time that ends up just getting wasted. And oftentimes when people overheal, it will be a continual habit. Now that doesn't not a guarantee, but this could end up just continuing and continuing, and
Oh,
then
it's definitely
mm,
it's a continual habit
yeah,
for me. Trust me. That
exactly.
is an awesome piece of advice.
Yep. So in that case, like if you know it's a continual habit, that can literally, if it like let's just say 5 minutes of fight, that really or sorry, not 5 minutes, 5 seconds of fight, right? That really adds up over the course of a game to where you could potentially be losing minutes of time. Per game or in total, right? Like, and that really affects your gameplay to where you're now missing minutes of time where you could be doing other things. So just pay attention to health bars so that we're not overhealing. So when we see people are full HP, we just stop and do something else, right? So here,
Okay.
we send one through. We'll just go through just so you can see it. Send one straight through Reinhardt when he's full HP, right? Another second one right there, right? This time we do throw one in, but Reinhardt did need healing, right? So those two were good. That one's fine, right? But now these guys are full HP still, and we then another one in that didn't really do anything. Fourth one in that didn't do anything, right? Fifth one in that didn't do anything, right? Sixth one didn't do nothing. Seventh, right? So there alone, we just saw 7 out of 10 of our shots just get completely wasted, right? So during that time, we could have just been shooting, right? Just like using all of that time to just shooting and doing damage, or looking around for somebody else who needs healing, such as the monkey here, or just reloading so that we actually have ammo when it's needed, right? So just
Okay.
making sure we're getting into good habits of not overhealing. Yep.
Awesome.
Um, Noticing that the so far our aim is looking a little bit shaky. Do you have a high sensitivity? And then would you mind sharing what your sensitivity and DPI are?
I do. My DPI is at 800, and then I think my sensitivity in game is like six, maybe around
6.
there.
Okay, that's not actually too terrible. That's actually pretty low. And then do you with mouse pad size? What size mouse pad would you say you have? Like just
Um,
smaller, big. Is
Big.
what I'm looking for. Big. Okay. So that doesn't seem too terrible, though. It does look as though our aim is just a little bit shaky. So maybe just smoothing it out so that I don't know. Maybe it's just easier on yourself to actually see what's going on.
Okay, awesome.
The objective is now active.
Yeah, because it looks like we're almost like constantly jittering around. So, just smoothing your aim out.
Yeah.
Make sure this can help. For example, see you to see some of the tinier things like health bars, right? Like if you're not just constantly shaking your shaking your camera to where you're like jittering it around, so that you can actually see what's going on around you a little bit easier. And then also, it's just not super necessary in terms of like it doesn't really provide very much for you in terms of value. So you know it's another small
Yeah,
thing there.
I need to work on that for sure because that screws up that lamp placement there for sure for me. Because I meant
Yeah.
to throw it behind that big tower, and then you can see it did not go where I wanted it to.
Yeah. So let's think first off, let's look at health bars. So we need healing, but our team does not. So the people in which we look like we're trying to throw it for don't actually need, like, they're not in danger right now, right? Immortality field is needed when people are in danger of dying, right? When they're low or they're about to take a bunch of damage. Here, all the people we're throwing it at actually are not low. And in fact, even though we are decently low, we're probably not in very much danger, as there is a difference between being low and being in danger. You can be low and in danger, but you can also be low and not in danger. So, for example, let's say that somebody's low and they're just sitting over here around the corner. Well, they're not in very much danger because they're nowhere near the fight and nowhere near anybody else who could be damaging them, and therefore you can just very easily heal them up, and you don't need an immortality. So, from where we're at, nobody on their team can really see us or shoot at us or anything like that. So, immortality is not needed in this instance for anybody except maybe the McCree, who's all the way over here, 1 HP. But that also, we wouldn't really be able to get a good angle for an immortality on him. So overall, all of that to say, immortality here probably not needed. Though what I would be doing is pressing I need healing so that Mercy just knows that you need healing, so you can get healing whenever she is back from healing McCree, right?
Okay, cool. I never use that, so I need to use
Yes,
that more.
definitely would recommend it because you might have heard it as a support, but it supports in-game audio cues. So the same way that you can hear someone on your left or right, you'll be able to hear in-game. Oh, there's somebody who needs healing behind me, right? Or there's somebody who needs healing to my left, right? So it gives you a lot. Your supports a lot more awareness to be able to get. So you'll get healing faster and more efficiently, right?
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Maybe a little bit more of overhealing here, right? We're just people are full HP and we're just kind of doing nothing on them. So we can even be looking at health bars on the top right and keeping in mind that sometimes it's even overhealing if they're only down like 50 to and then sometimes even on tanks, like you can go up to like 100 HP, where like sometimes that's not even healing that's needed to be healed up immediately, and therefore you could maybe be doing other things with that time. So I'd probably say 50 for now is like a good number. So like even like look at yourself, right? That's HP. Like we're down 50 HP right now. That's not health that's immediately needed. So therefore, if somebody else was at that health, we can still be doing other things and it not be completely needed. And I might even consider it overhealing to even heal somebody who's you're only who is only down 50 20 HP, right? Because that time could be better suited doing something else. So, just looking at how we're healing people here, right? Reinhardt's full H, like pretty much full. This is an example, right, where we're healing Reinhardt and he is down like 10 HP, right? So that's just not needed. Again, not needed, right? So we go again. Monkey does need a little bit of healing, right? So we heal him up. Now he's full, right? Nobody on our team needs healing besides us, right? Like every single person on our team's full HP. Yeah, we heal and we heal, right? And then we heal, and then we heal, and then we heal, right? And then we heal, and then we heal, right? So we just are constantly pumping out the healing when I probably say an excellent example is you damage whenever healing is not needed, right? Because right now we're completely neglecting one part of our kit. Now, on Baptiste, I'd probably say you're going to be around like 65% of the time you're healing, and then 35% of the time you're damaging. I'd probably say that's roughly the split. Maybe it really depends upon the situation and how much damage your team is taking. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but that's roughly the amount in how it's going to be split up. Right now, it is like I don't know if I've seen you left click once. So as of the moment, it's 100% healing, 0% damaging. So definitely like to see the amount of healing going down a little bit, because you'll notice that people don't need healing every second of every game, right? That's just not a
You're
thing
right.
because they're not always taking damage. So lowering amount of healing, looking to put more thought into abilities and looking to put more damage out there and paying more attention to our environments, right? So just all this stuff stems from just making sure we're healing less. Now we have talked a lot about that, so I'll point it out like very briefly whenever it pops up.
Oh, dude, trust me, you are gonna point it out
Yep.
all this time, dude. I'm by no means good, so
Yep.
trust me, I'm thankful for the critiques
Yeah.
here because that is awesome information.
Yep, all good. I'm just the point is that we've talked on it, so I'll try to talk on other points now. So, I'll bring it up, I'll point it out, when it pops up, but I'm not going to spend, 10, 5 minutes on it again, right? Like we did here.
Okay.
All right. So, a little bit more here over healing, just be shooting,
You're fully hit.
Enemy seen.
reloading. All right.
Monkey sighted.
Now you just see it's constant.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Monkey online.
Let them out.
Okay, so with placement here, um we do end up placing it a little bit poorly as it only gets we're pretty much the only person on our team who's able to utilize it. So first off, position let's look at positioning for ourselves. So oftentimes as Baptiste, you're going to want to play near to your team, except with a couple exceptions. So let's just talk on that real quick. So we're at a minute and 40 seconds. We'll just leave real quick. So Baptiste prefers to have a close ranged positioning towards his team, right? To where he likes to stay with his team for a variety of reasons. First off, just he has two different projectiles on his kit. He has his regular fire for healing, but then he also has his immortality field, both of which prefer closer distances because projectiles by nature are harder to hit the further away they are, right? It's much harder to hit someone all the way over there with a projectile than it is to hit somebody who's like right next to you. So it's going to be a lot easier to hit projectiles and your immortality field, and your right click, right, when we're closer to people. And then on top of that, there's going to be a delay before they actually receive said healing and immortality field the further away we go.
Oh man, I
So
didn't even think about that.
Yep. So those are a couple tiny things to mix in there. Now on top of that, we're going to be unable to shift heal people as it's a 10-meter radius. So if we're outside of that, we're going to be unable to provide our team with that ability. And then finally, it's also going to be pretty difficult to help give your team your ultimate if you're like really far away from them, as we saw in that last game that we were just in. Was we were pretty far away from them, and that made it difficult to use it for everybody. So we'll show you in game like where you could have been positioning instead, but for the most part, is just stick with your team. Try to stick more so like within this range of them, and then the only times in which you should be backing up is if this range of them is very like if being up here is like very far out in the open and there's no cover anywhere, or if you have a high ground, in which case sometimes when you have a high ground, this can negate some of the negatives by giving you positives. Like high ground's usually very good positioning, giving you a ton of visibility and survivability where you're able to survive very easily. It all acts as natural cover, right? They see us, now they can't, right? We can see over here and over there and all the way over here as well. But if we're on a low ground, we can't see over there, and we can't see any of the high ground as well. So it gives us a ton of visibility, and on top of all that, a lot of characters in the game can't reach us without using stairways. So the only time in which you might not want to take net right next to them is if you have a good high ground to compensate and give you other benefits that come along with high ground. Though I would say that the high ground, if we're looking at the game that we were in, the high ground that on the top left doesn't do a ton it doesn't give us a ton of the benefits, so I might just stick with the team. Um,
Okay, cool.
so
Yeah,
let's
I guess I watched like some guide video online, and that's what somebody was saying was like try to get high ground with Baptiste. And
Yep.
I guess I took that to heart a little bit too
Yeah.
much.
So we can look at some of the things here. So like on this high ground, it doesn't act as like great cover usage, like as it's it's a pretty low high ground, right? So you can see like even if we back up all the way, they can still see us pretty easily, whereas if we do something like this where we're up on this high ground, well, we back away from the ledge and now they can't see us at all, right? Or we crouch,
Okay.
right? So here you can see how it doesn't really allow us to do that, but we do have these pillars which are pretty decent. The other thing is that it's a high ground that's pretty far away from our team, right? Preferably if we're taking high ground, it would be one that's like closer to our team if if possible. And then also, on top of that, like the visibility doesn't change very drastically from here to here, right? Like we're positioning like here with our team. Like we can see pretty much the same things, so the visibility doesn't get upped very high. And then to get to us, it's not a super long wraparound, like it's just a pretty short wraparound. So overall, there's different qualities in high grounds, and this high ground isn't like the best of quality, and then this high ground also isn't the best of quality because it's just this tiny little platform. So in general, like these two high grounds aren't too fantastic, in which case it might just be best to stick with your team. Now getting back to where we were, with when we use our immortality field, we do use our immortality field, and just make sure we're being a little bit more careful with the placement and putting it ahead of our team. We could have even maybe waited like a couple extra seconds if we wanted. One other thing to maybe keep in mind is that you can jump up in the air while using your immortality field, which might give you like a better angle to which you can use it. Maybe like plopping yourself up on top of this thing while you place it or whatnot. Just might give you a better angle to where you're closer to your team. But here we just end up placing it, and then we're the only person on our team who actually can see through it until Reinhardt backs behind it. But by that point, he's already down his fire strike. Okay, so on overhealing, when it comes to shift usage, so shift usage has 3 different uses, right? You have self-healing when you need healing, you have when a big group of people need healing, and then you have burst healing. So burst healing would be if somebody is like low HP, like your Reinhardt's critical, and then if you use your shift and you shoot them, well, now you're healing them from 2 different sources, and you heal them up extra fast, right? So those are the 3 ways that you'd be using it, right? But we can look at this instance when we do use it, that none of those really apply, to where look top right, every single person on your team is full HP, so therefore this doesn't really do very much, right? So it's just
Yeah.
just a wasted ability. A lot of this is stemming from not paying attention to health bars, not paying, and then also just a lot of overhealing. So make sure we're really concentrating on this, because it's just leading to a lot of wasted abilities, resources, and time.
I thought you needed a head.
Okay, more overhealing, just be shooting right now. We do not seem to be aware of the fact that there's an Ashe right to our left, right? Just because maybe we're not looking over, though we can hear her, so make sure we're keeping our ears open and listening. Okay, now that might be a situation in which somebody needs an immortality field, right? So here, when there's a nano Reinhardt running at a Symmetra, right? So that might be an instance in where Symmetra, though not critical at the moment, is in danger, right? Somebody can be not critical and still in danger. So here she is critical and she's in danger, right? So we might want to immortality field for her to keep her alive.
Okay.
Okay, or even Reinhardt here. Yep, that's pretty good. I imagine you saw the place immortality field behind objects on one of like the tech videos that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that. That's really good. That definitely is something I would encourage. Yep. So keep it up. That's a good thing to be doing. Oh, for a second there, I got confused, thinking that the wall was the enemies, and I was like, "Are we trying to heal through the wall?" All right, but no, we're good. We can. All right.
Step right up.
Yeah. A little bit of overhealing. Look up to shoot at the Pharah. We kind of just keep looking forwards when, again, no one really needs healing. So far we're like 2 minutes in the game, and we do not seem to be using our gun at all. So I don't think I've seen us use it once. And then why don't we just real quick go through, and we'll set this to, just so we can maybe prove a point at all. We'll set the, oh, that's not the right one. We'll set the time skip to like 15 seconds, and then we'll just look at our ammo to see if we ever actually are down any ammo with our left click, right? So we skip forward 10 seconds. Nope. Okay, now we did shoot here, right? So that's good. No, no, yes, a little bit, right? No, no, no. Yes, a little bit, right? No, no. Right, so then now this is in spawn. Okay, no, no, no,
Pick
no,
yourself up.
no, no. Oh, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. No, no. Oh, this is the new rounds.
better.
Okay. Little tiny bit, little bit there. Right? No, no, no,
That.
no. Okay, a little bit there. No, no. Little tiny bit. So, we look through the gameplay, like, most of the game, and we see, like, maybe a couple times every couple of minutes, right? Not very often.
Yeah.
So just want to be making sure we're shooting much more often. This will give us much more impact, right? Like if we're not shooting at all, we're going to be getting very little impact in terms of, Baptiste is going to excel at finishing off kills and just outputting more damage to help your team out and just taking duels to be able to duel a Pharah who's on top of us. So here, when we have a Pharah barraging us, this might be a good time to try to look up at her and hopefully kill her to, shoot at her and kill her, right? Like here she's barraging us. She ends up like she ends up missing some shots on us. In which cases, like if we looked up at her, we might be able to actually have time to kill her, right? If we start shooting at her there, because she does actually die to the Symmetra turret, right? So we'd almost certainly be able to kill her there, right?
Yeah.
Possibly faster than she actually kills us. So that's a good idea.
Someone's looking out for me.
Take the teleporter, right? Make sure paying attention to the
So you get
teleporter.
backwards, yeah. It did not
Oh.
work well for you there.
Whoops.
Regen burst activated. Fully healed.
Alright. Like they were grouping up a bit there. Some more overhealing just on people who don't need healing. Right? There's a lot of that, right? Probably like, 50% of
Oh
our
yeah.
gameplay, 50% of our gameplay at this point, right?
Yeah, I can definitely work on the overhealing for sure.
Yep. Oh, as of the moment, we haven't gone over everything yet, though. As of the moment, this looks as though it's going to be the #1 point of the session, just because you can see how much time and resources this will take up. To where if you fix this one mistake and you just kind of get over that, I would see your value that you are outputting very much greatly increasing, and that's one of the things where, like, if you fix that one thing, I would very much imagine that you'd start to climb in SR, at least for the short term. Here, immortality field. Okay, here, just make sure we're using the immortality field, right? Because we do have it here, and we're low HP and critical, and we don't actually use it. So make sure we're paying attention to that, so that we can look to keep ourselves alive, right? It's definitely better that we use it here and not die than to die. Um,
Exactly, yeah.
Now that's, just part of staying alive. Obviously, is going to be very good for you, and one of the mistakes we can use to dying. You have 4 things that can cause deaths. You have a misuse of abilities. That would be like not using your abilities when you have them to keep yourself alive, such as your heal or immortality field, or just wasting them beforehand, right? Or the other things that lead into deaths are over aggression, just running into them, poor positioning, standing out in the open, or also a lack of awareness, so just not knowing what's going on around you. And then those things are the main causes of deaths. Here, the main cause of death is just is misuse of ability, not immortality.
Yeah, I need to pay way more attention to that.
All right.
وريهم قوتك. Reality bends to my will. Kill the Mahal.
Okay, let's see. In this instance, are we wanting to fight this fight? It is currently a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's a 6v4. You're all at 1 HP. Okay, so it's honestly best that we just let them win, because they've won the fight by now. So I think it's a good idea not to use immortality there and to just back up. Probably smart.
Regen burst activated.
So this is around the point in which we should probably want to be using our ultimate, though we do seem to be holding on to it a little bit. Okay, our Reinhardt likes to charge the Reinhardt off the map for some reason. Alright, so ultimates probably look to be using that much earlier in the fight. So ultimates
Okay.
that are used first inherently get more value than ultimates that are used second. So a couple things to point that out, right? So let's say the enemy team has an has a window, right? Say, oh, excuse me. Enemy team has an immortality same as you, right? And they immortality first. Well, now they're going to be able to pump a ton of damage through that and maybe get a couple kills on you guys. And then now if you tried to immortality second, or keep saying immortality, that's not your ultimate. Window, if you tried to window second, well, now you would not have as many people to shoot through it, and then therefore it inherently get less value, right? So ultimates that are used
Exactly.
first get more value than ults that are used second. And then on top of that, if we wait until like mid to late fight to use our ultimate, then that can just mean that they could just win the fight before you get a chance to use your ult, right? Like they could just come in with 3 ults and then win it, and then boom, you lost. So preferably here, you're going to want to use your ultimates at the beginning of fights, when the fights begin. I would probably say, fight is usually a good indication of fights that are beginning are the range in which people are from each other. So here, when both Reinhardts are on top of each other, and you have most of your teammates with you, and the enemy team's here, right? This is pretty much where the fight has begun. There are other indicators to be if picks are going either way, or if ultimates are being used, right? When stuff is happening, right? When you're not just poking at each other. So here the fight's begun. Probably any time from now on would be a good time to use our ultimate.
The pain.
Okay.
So
Heroes never.
even here, right, just like probably plopping it like right here and just putting it right in front probably be a really good idea. So we end up holding on to it for a little while, and then by the time we use it, we use it after we've already won the fight here. So honestly, even on top of that, so we don't use it. So we're up right now. We're up 2 people.
Let them up.
I'd probably say that you probably don't even want to be using your ultimate at the moment. So right now it's a 5v3, and McCree is 1 HP, right? At the moment, this is a very significant advantage to where if we might not want to use our ultimate at all, because we might want it for when they try to stall out the point. But in any case, right, like would be the point in which you're very hesitant to use your ultimate. So I would just maybe hold on to it for when they try to recontest, right? Because we win the fight anyways here without it.
Regen up.
But that wasn't a big deal, because you're pretty much gonna win it anyways. So that one wasn't a terrible mistake.
I'm on fire.
All right. So let's do a quick strengths to weaknesses real quick of like what we're looking good at, what we're looking bad at. Sorry, I have some background noise here. One
Oh,
moment.
don't worry, you're fine.
All right. So strengths and weaknesses. Ability usage. Let's see. Um, Immortality Field definitely needs some work. We have seen it get value like once, right? First time you threw it, it was unnecessary, and then since then, I think we've only seen us throw it like 2 or 3 times in total. So one thing I would say is that make sure you're using it more often, as though because we do seem to hold on to it quite a lot.
Okay.
Just keeping in mind that abilities that don't get used don't get value, right? So it's only gotten a tiny little bit of value because we've only used it a couple times. So look to use it more often, because there are some fights that we just didn't use it at all. So make sure we're looking to use it, make sure we're keeping ourselves alive with it. Shift usage, just make sure we're using it in the 3 things, in the 3 scenarios where we talked about before, when we need healing, team groups need healing, or someone needs burst healing, right? Those are times in which we'd use it. So overall, I probably say that goes at like a medium priority, because we do want to make sure that we're using, especially the immortality thing, was just making sure we're getting good value out of it. Ultimate
Yeah.
usage, not too terrible. I like that we didn't hold on to it all, and we used it at decent timing. Though using it earlier in the fight would be good, and make sure we're using it for more teammates would be preferable. And then maybe just holding on to it if you see that you've already won the fight. Though that one was very minor. So overall, I'd probably say this one is more of a low to medium priority for you to work on. Um, Now mechanics has honestly seemed So general mechanics of just shooting at stuff seemed fine, right? If just like we don't seem to miss like a ton of shots, and we
Yeah,
generally
I
hit the
just need to
targets we go
work on
for.
getting smoother, man. I am not
Yeah.
that smooth with the gameplay,
Mm,
and then my awareness isn't that good. Those are two
yeah.
things I try to work on, but I do like one of those aim trainers too, so hopefully it
Yep.
starts paying off, but we'll see.
Sounds good. So, out of curiosity, how often would you use the aim trainer you use?
I do it like maybe 2 times a week, maybe 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week for probably like an hour at a time.
Okay, so I probably would recommend doing it a little bit less often, especially like if because you said that this week was a little bit more than usual at like 2 to 3 hours a day, right? That
Yeah.
in comparison to some other people who play the game, that's not going to be a lot, especially like if let's say if you're playing, let's round it down and say it's 2 hours a day, right, on average. You want all the gameplay you can get in actually playing the game if you're while you're playing. So overall, I probably recommend doing aim trainers to warm up for the day, like before you get into a comp game or while you're in queues for games. But besides that, I wouldn't go like full hour sessions unless you're playing a lot, or really. The other thing is if you like enjoy aim trainers, because some people like enjoy just playing aim trainers. Like go ahead and do that. That's fine. But the other thing is once you get a lot of gameplay in, like you're playing like 8 to 12 hours a day, that's where doing an hour of aim trainers a day, like that's where it becomes applicable. Though at the current moment, I wouldn't say that your aim is anything that is in dire need of working on. And then on top of that, it's just you're going to be able to practice your aim while playing, so you want to get as much gameplay in as possible. So just some ideas and recommendations instead of doing 2 to 3 hours a week in like blocks of sessions. Instead, maybe do use aim trainers as like warm ups or to play them while you're in between queues of games and whatnot. And then that way you get as much actual gameplay as possible, and you can practice.
I could definitely do that.
Mhm. So, oh yeah, continuing on. So mechanics, general mechanics looks all right. Though definitely. So honestly, as of the moment, we're just going to change this category. Usually, this category encompasses a couple different things, but on Baptiste, we're going to change this category to overhealing, and then we might add in yeah. So the big category is just overhealing here, right? Where we just overheal way too much, right? Where we just miss out on 40 to 50% of more things that we could be doing, like for like that's a crazy number to think about, like where we could be doing 40-50% more if we're just not wasting our time doing nothing, right? So paying attention to health bars, paying attention to when people need healing and when they don't, and then not healing when they don't need healing, right? And then instead damaging more often. This is another thing that will go into this, kind of goes in the mechanics category, but we'll also just we'll pair it along with the overhealing. Is just shooting much more often, like 30, but I don't want you to all of a sudden go up to 60 with shooting, but I want you to go up to 35% ish of shooting, much more often, and making sure that we're, shooting when healing is needed, and then we're reloading when healing is needed, looking around for other people who do need healing, and then looking to use abilities more. So overall, I'd probably say this one goes to a high for the moment, high priority. Moving on, couple other things. Positioning so far has honestly looked pretty solid. We haven't been out in the open, and then really we talked about just sticking with our team, and that was pretty much it. So overall, I'll probably say that goes to like a low to medium for the moment. And then finally comes awareness. Awareness usually is one of the slower ones to develop. So far, we've had things like just paying attention to the fact that we have immortality field, paying attention to our health bar and requesting healing when we need to, paying attention to the danger levels of teammates, along with especially health bars. Right, that's one of the biggest things in awareness is paying attention to teammates, health bars, and danger levels. Paying attention to just where's the enemy team at, and then making sure we're paying attention to just all the odds and ends here and there, things like make sure we're not teleporting backwards, right? Paying attention to
Yeah,
where the teleport
exactly.
is going. Um, and then just paying attention to the flow of the fight, right? Just a lot of odds and ends, like here or there type of deals. This one, I think I'm going to put at a medium high, though that it, all these will, as we go on for the rest of the session, are subject to go up and down throughout this list. So that's just what we're working with for now and where everything stands. All right.
Okay, awesome.
Got you good as new.
Okay. Overhealing. Make sure we're paying attention to the people behind us. Like, is here, Symmetra ends up getting
Got you good as
killed
new.
when possibly what the oh, she gets pulled on the open. Unfortunate. Symmetra ends up getting killed, whereas maybe if we're paying attention, we could have helped her out with an immortality or something. Though that one,
How about a
I
little
wouldn't.
extra here?
Again, that one's a maybe a more minor thing because it would have been pretty hard. I'd probably say it was a pretty hard thing
I'm
to just
keeping
be aware
tabs
of,
on you.
especially since you're
Get
lagging
in
so far
here.
behind. When you're throwing immortality fields, make sure we are trying to throw them.
How about a little
We're
extra
trying
here?
not to bounce them off of things, as when we just chuck it straight at the wall here, do you notice how it has a delay before it activates because it has to bounce to the ground?
Yeah.
So
Get in
we
here.
bounce it and then it activates, whereas if we, for example, threw it directly where we're aiming and we threw it at the corner here, well then it would have a faster activate time and get up sooner. On top of that, I probably would say that immortality is not currently needed, as nobody
How
is in
about a little
immediate
extra
danger
here?
at the moment. Like if you pay attention to their health bar,
Get in
or
here.
like what when throwing it, she has gold up, she's only half HP, and she doesn't have a lot of people looking at her.
Okay,
Sorry for
awesome.
background noise happening at the moment. My bad.
Oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, I've got my work cut out for me, man. I've got a lot to improve on.
Yeah, everyone does, right? Everyone needs coaching, even up to like Overwatch League, right? That's why they have professionals at it.
Yeah, really. I'm happy I did this.
Hmm.
I could use some assistance.
All right. Let's
How about a
take a
little
look.
extra here? Get
So
in here.
here we messed up immortality field. Farah is behind us. We can hear this based on. Oh well, obviously we know that because we saw her kill us. But on top of that, we heard her like thud and drop. So she is currently right here for keeping our ears open. This is another part of awareness, is audio awareness and listening to our surroundings. She starts shooting at us. From above, right? We can hear the explosions. We can see the explosions at the moment. Good idea would probably just be if we're trying to duel her still, though. At the moment, actually, it'd probably just be best to let her kill us. Just because we've lost this fight. So, retracting statements. Just let her kill you. But I mean, it seems that the big thing is less of letting her kill us, as the fact that it looks as though we are completely confused as to where we're getting shot from. Right? Like we don't seem to know where the
The
damage is coming
objective is
from.
now
So fine. It's fine that she kills us there. It's more so just I want to make sure that we are actually aware of where the fire was, right?
Yeah, know who's shooting me?
Yeah. All right. Overhealing. Oh, that might be a time where we can and then notice how overhealing, for example, here leads to when we shoot you waste all our ammo. Well, now we don't have ammo for when healing is actually needed. So now Orisa, who is critical, needs healing, and we could just heal her up normally. Like we could just burst heal her by right clicking and then
Yeah,
maybe using
exactly.
shift, and we could heal her up normally here. But because we don't have it, because we overhealed, now we can't. Right here as well. I would just, if we see she's this low, just throw an immortality field and just it's a higher priority to save her life than it is to reload. So just cancel the reload with an immortality field, and then therefore we keep her alive because again we didn't use it here.
Very rough.
So probably say immortality field is similar to our gun in that we kind of hold we don't really use it very often, and therefore we don't get the value out of it that we could be getting. All right, so
Okay,
we.
awesome. I need to work on that.
Yep. All right. Yeah, some more over healing, and we could be shooting.
Regen up.
Okay, good shift. Jumped into some mines there. Make sure we're paying attention to our environment. So there we hear the ball use his ult, and we see him use his ult,
Regen up.
and we see the mines below us. Yeah, we still jump straight into them anyways.
Yep, I'm
Right.
an absolute dumbass.
All good. Right, we just want to make sure we're paying attention to our environments, right? So let's just talk on that concept for a minute, just so that we fully understand how we to work on that. So, you might be saying, well, Tabugi, how does one work on awareness? Because, I can work on maybe using my immortality more often or something like that. That seems easy enough, but, how do I just pay attention better? That seems very vague, right? How do I do that? So, the way that you work on your awareness is the exact same way that you'd look to work on everything else that you want to work on, and that is to focus on it while you play, right? So that means that you're not going to be autopiloting, you're not going to be just playing to play, and contrary to popular belief, you're not going to be playing to win, as playing to win just leads to stagnation where you just stay the same. Whereas if you play to improve, playing to improve leads to you getting better, and then that means you're actually going to win more as a result. So what that looks like within your own gameplay is while you are playing, you want to be having objective in mind. So this would be awareness in this case. So your brain would look something like this, where you're going awareness, 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 right? And you're constantly giving yourself that reminder to pay attention to your surroundings. Look at health bars. Pay attention to what's going on around you, right? When you constantly give yourself that reminder, you're going to start to notice, oh snap, I'm actually looking around myself more often, and then therefore your awareness is better. When you keep that up for a long enough period of time, well, now that forms as a habit, and now you actually don't need to pay attention as much because you just naturally do it, right? So, as a quick disclaimer, probably recommend don't go try to do every single thing all at once, because that'll get overwhelming, as we've talked about a lot of different things. Instead, focus on one category of things, or 1 to 3 smaller things within that category that you're trying to focus on. All right.
Awesome.
Sound okay. So let's just
Regen
continue on
up.
here. Besides that, besides jumping in the mines, we do end up also throwing immortality field like in a not so great direction. Like we bounce it off the wall here and throw it directly into the wall
Regen
instead of
up.
throwing it at the ground. So just keeping in mind that yes, we are trying to place immortality behind walls, but we're not trying to chuck it at the wall, because then it just bounces off. Instead, we're trying to throw it at the floor next to the wall, right?
Okay.
So that
I need to
just
work on that.
yeah. Or actually, it's hard because we like flick to the side at the last second. Maybe that's like the jitter aim happening again, because like we threw it, but and then we look to the left after we threw it. But here it looks as though we just kind of throw it too high up. Look down a little bit more. You want to be looking where you're trying to activate it. So here, if we're trying to get it at Orisa, we would want to be looking at the ground at her feet, or more accurately, like behind cover right here. Whereas we throw it way too far, and then that just activates all the way over there, right?
Yeah, I need to work on my stability and aiming, I guess you'd say. I am pretty jittery. I think it comes from like the old Counter-Strike Source days,
Mm.
playing Surf all the time like an idiot.
Yep. So definitely is a thing to work on. Though again, I would clarify that I wouldn't say it's as big a deal as like some of the other things that we're talking about. Like I definitely say that that's probably more so like for like the fourth thing down on the list. Like we talked about like um we you know we have overhealing.
Awareness.
We have
Yeah,
overhealing at the top,
overhealing for
then
sure.
awareness, then and then after that we have ability usage, and then after that, I would probably say comes but then even then, I don't know. I'd probably say it's pretty low. It's one of the lower ones on the list. It definitely is above like some of the tiny minor mistakes, but if I would definitely prioritize other things before moving on to specifically focusing on that. Now that's not something you can just do. Try to just fix real quick while you're playing along. Just keep it in mind, but though I wouldn't put a very high priority on it. Miss some shots there.
How about a little extra
Alright,
here?
good.
Get in here.
Uh-oh, that's not where we wanted to put it, right? So, immortality again, honestly gonna be bumping up ability usage to probably like a medium high, as well as we haven't seemed to get a ton of value out of our immortality field so far. Like the last
Okay.
one didn't really do anything, and then here,
How about a
we
little
have Farah
extra?
barraging behind us, and I think we kind of panic. Oh no, we see Monkey's critical, but we have to also have to keep in mind that he's still half HP here. He still has 500 HP, so I wouldn't say he's like in any immediate danger. In fact, I'd probably say it's a higher priority to be throwing immortality down for you three than it is to be throwing it down for the monkey, because monkey's one person versus 3 people who are getting barraged, and then on top of that, he also still has 500 HP and can probably get out still. And also monkeys can just leap. If he's not paying attention, he's just gonna leap straight out of that immortality, whereas if we're looking the other 2 people behind us won't do that. So here we
Get
just
in
end up
here.
throwing it straight on the point, not really, good positioning with it. not really in a great place. Monkey leaps out as we just. Oh, actually, no, he didn't leap out. But he still has, most of his HP in there. And then Orisa and Soldier die behind us, so we could have kept both of those guys alive had we just turned around. And then that gets into ability usage, but then also awareness to make sure we're listening for the Fara Brush, right? Um,
Okay.
in terms of audio, turn up your volume if needed, turn down a music volume if needed. This can, let you have some more awareness. But also, and then on top of that, one other audio setting that you can look into is if you do not already have, I would recommend looking into surround sound if you have the option, if you don't already have it enabled on your headset. And then if your headset does not offer the feature in game, there is a surround sound feature in sound, and then you scroll all the way at the bottom, Dolby Atmos for headphones. This will not work though if you do have surround sound software already on your headset. And then besides that, just make sure focusing on listening for gunshots and ultimates and footsteps and people,
Yeah, I'll
right?
have to be way better at that and identifying what they are.
Exactly. All right. So at the moment, this is unfortunate. When did we get our ultimate this fight?
How about
We
a
also
little
have our
extra
ultimate
here?
we've had our ultimate this entire fight, so we do hold on to it again and noting that they use their ults first, and then therefore they get more value and kill your whole team before we actually get a chance to use it, when we could just be using it like, anytime now, right?
Get in here.
And then on top of that, at the moment, we do have 20 seconds left, so I would probably be, now that we're down 3 people, when you have lost a fight, you want to look to get out if possible, and if you can't get out, you want to let them kill you. Here, I'd probably say you could get out pretty easily if we just charged up a hop and hopped over the wall, and then boom, we can regroup with our team, maybe touch at the last second. Instead, we end up staying in the fight, which will probably end up staggering ourselves. Are you familiar with what staggering is?
Yeah, pretty spawn at different times.
Yeah, basically just dying late, right? And then that means that that's going to mean that our team has 2 decisions. They can either walk in without us, which they're going to be forced to here because we're we only have 20 seconds left, right? So they're going to be forced to walk in without us. In which case they'll be down a player, or if they waited for us, we'd be wasting time, right? So here we're just going to have staggering when we could probably have stayed alive, or maybe we just magically stay alive this whole time because they can't aim. Yeah, so at the moment, I almost... No, come on, kill us. We don't deserve... Okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. So, no, didn't use an ultimate there.
Everyone's
Abilities didn't really do a ton. And then more overhealing and whatnot.
Hey,
all better. For now.
healing
Oh, so close. Paying attention to our ball, maybe we could have possibly thrown an immortality field for him. If we saw the critical on our arm here right now, we could maybe have thrown one. Very nice.
Regen up.
Yeah, but we are down person. And more overhealing. These guys are all full. Make sure we're reloading at the moment when when we need to, when we don't have anything else to do.
Regen burst.
Okay, good. Shift usage honestly has been looking better. There's like one time where we misused it, and then so far honestly it's been looking very solid. We haven't actually been misusing it very often. So the main thing is immortality usage within our abilities.
Yeah, I need to get way better at that because I think I'm saving it for the wrong times. I'm trying to
Yeah.
save it for like ults and shit like that I know are gonna
Yeah.
kill us, but I think there's much better times I could be using it, like you pointed out.
Yep. So, there's definitely, you definitely can save it for specific ultimates, especially like if there's big ultimates coming in. But there's fights where ultimates aren't gonna, where they're not even gonna have ultimates, and then there's fights where you have to keep in mind that if we just let our whole team die before they even use ultimates, and then we lose the fight with ultimates or without ultimates, right? Like the ultimates aren't gonna matter if our whole team's dead. So it's better to use your lamp. If somebody's gonna die, it's better to use your lamp and save them and then worry about countering the ultimate afterwards than to let them die and then lose the fight anyways, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Get in here.
Okay, so there we use immortality. Not sure if this one's needed though, right? Like we take a look at like danger levels of people, right? And like, are we in danger at the moment? Every single person on our team is full HP, right? And no, there's no ultimates or nobody's in direct danger as of the moment. So probably would say that that immortality field just gets mostly wasted, right? So just there's times where we'll waste it, and then there's times we'll just hold on to it, and then there's times we'll miss it, and then there's like the 1 in 6 that will actually land and have value, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, some over healing on people. Good shift usage. Shoot at her, shoot at her. All right. Yeah. So maybe possibly in that situation we could have had immortality when we actually needed it, had we not wasted it, right? And then, and they get respawned, and then we get die immediately. Unfortunate. Possibly, maybe we could have leapt out the window, but that's not blaming you a ton for that one. Oh, what's the button? There we go. Okay, let's see. What do we do with our ultimate? Let's on it. So we're coming up near the end, and then we'll at the very end here we'll go over review and go over the main points of the session, and do a wrap up. But let's just real quick speed through the last little bit, see what we do with like our big abilities such as our ultimate and our immortality field. So there, could have saved Hog, right? But we let him die to that. Thinking if that would be worth it. Yeah, I'd probably say it's worth it, especially since he got the ball. You guys would be 5-5, so that could have used immortality there to save him if we're paying attention. So awareness as well. Skippy skip. Okay, let's see. Any teammates dying? We just had Junkrat die where Junkrat die, right? So here we do use immortality on a Reinhardt. So actually, that looks like a decent situation. We're all getting ulted, so. It's good, though, again, noting that another fight is come and gone, and we have not used our ultimate, right? That now makes, like, 1.5 or so this fight, right? Let's see, do we use it again in this fight? So we're coming in, probably should be looking to use it, like, some point around here once the fight is engaging, right? Like, we can throw it in front of our Reinhardt, but we could also maybe just in the situation, if we know our Reinhardt's going to be taking a ton of damage because he needs to touch, we can just sit here and plop it down, and then we can get 2 times the healing on our Reinhardt, something like that. But let's see, do we actually use it this fight? Okay, so we do use it, it's just a little bit late. And then we die with immortality, so making sure we're not dying with immortality, right? Alright, so let's go here. We're going to go over the main points, do a quick review, and then wrap up the session. So, number 1, overhealing, right? Just a ton of game, of time that we end up wasting, that we could be doing, other things with, right? We just end up wasting a lot of time. Shoot more often, make it like 35% of the time. Pay attention to pay attention to health bars, right? So we know when not to overheal. Don't heal when healing isn't needed, right? And then sometimes even when somebody's like 50 HP, might not even need healing then, right? But it really depends upon the situation. Like if the fight's over, then go ahead and heal them, or if like you have nothing else better to do, go ahead and heal them. But if you could be doing something else that's more productive, then 50 HP doesn't necessarily take the priority. So moving on, number 2 is probably going to be your thinking, probably awareness, right? Just paying attention to what's going on around us, paying attention to health bars and the danger levels of teammates and just where our teammates are in general, paying attention to our health bar and when we need healing and requesting healing when we do, paying attention to when we have our abilities and ultimates so we don't end up holding on to them and whatnot, right? That can just, if we're just glancing at them, we might go, oh snap, I actually have my ultimate, let me make sure I'm using it, right? Make sure we're paying attention to where the enemy team is, right? And keeping up good audio awareness, right? So we know when, like, a lot of times where just Farah snuck up next to us and we had no clue she was there, right? Or was barraging and we could have turned around and immortality and we just didn't, right? So make sure paying attention to those things. Pay attention to when you're winning or losing the fight, and just how to adjust accordingly. And those are all the main things, right? Number 3 is going to be your specifically immortality usage. I probably would say like you actually did really solid with your shift usage to where it's just a tiny thing in there. So, but the main category was just your immortality usage. Shift, make sure we're using it when people in 3 situations: when we need it, when group needs it, or when somebody really needs it and we burst heal. But besides that, we did pretty solid with it, and immortality is the big one here. Making sure that we are not holding on to it, right? Because there's sometimes we just didn't use it at all, and make sure we're not dying with it, and make sure we're not just throwing it out in the open. Make sure we're not bouncing it off of walls, but instead we're throwing it at the ground and where we were trying to get it to go. So if we're trying to get it to go at the feet of this guy over there, you can just chuck it in there. One other tiny tech thingy, just in case you weren't aware, is that your right click and your immortality follow the exact same projectile path. So if you're throwing a
Oh
longer
wow.
ranged one, you will be able to see where it's going, right? So that's a handy way to do a longer one. Though again, remember that you might not want to be at a long range, but you know there are gonna be times where you're forced at a long range, right? So besides that, make sure we're just working on the placement. And also pay attention to danger levels of people, because we also used it sometimes when it wasn't even needed. Like people were full HP and not in danger, and we just kind of plop it there. So just pay attention to all these things. Make sure we're concentrating on getting good immortalities in, because it's basically like a secondary ultimate, right?
Yeah.
Moving on, number 4 is gonna be also just I guess real quick, because it goes in the mechanics category, but then also not. We made the mechanics category into overhealing, but just adding it in there is just remembering the jitter aiming, right? Just make sure, we're not doing this, but instead we're just kind of smoothly moving around a little bit, and instead of just jittering it along, right? It's not needed, and it's just gonna make it harder to see what's going on, right? But this is like I said, not a very massive priority. Moving on to number 4 is, let's see, we have. What are the last ones? We have our ultimate usage, and then we have our positioning. I'd probably say ultimate usage comes next, with positioning actually looking pretty solid. Ultimate usage, make sure that we're not holding on to it, making sure that we are using it at the beginning of fights and maybe in the middle of fights, but not holding on to it till mid to late fight, right, or in whatnot, just because it gets more value if you use it at the beginning, and that means that you'll be able to actually win the fight, hopefully, before you lose it, right? Besides that, try to get it with your team if your team's there to use it, and then that's pretty much it with that. Finally comes positioning, making sure we're sticking with our team unless we have a high ground or something to use that's better, or in certain cases where like they're in super bad positioning or something like that. But yep, that one honestly was looking really solid, and we didn't have many things to talk about in positioning. So that is pretty much it. Do you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, or just anything else in game?
No, man, that's it. Thank you so much for all your advice. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm glad I could be of assistance. So